Welcome to the pod key summary of University of Toronto. Today's episode is about a university that's so big, it almost behaves like a small city, and in some ways, several different universities sharing one name. The University of Toronto has a history that runs from church control and colonial power to mass public education, world-changing research, giant fundraising, real campus conflict, and a student culture that's been shaping Canadian life for well over a century. It's Canada's largest university, but the interesting part isn't just the size. It's how much influence, contradiction, and reinvention can fit inside one institution. University of Toronto started in 1827 as King's College, created by royal charter and tied closely to the Church of England and Upper Canada's colonial elite. That changed in 1849 when reformers secularized it, renamed it the University of Toronto, and set up the non-denominational University College. That early shift matters because it set the pattern for the school's whole history. It keeps reinventing itself as the city around it changes. Even now, its structure still carries traces of the old world. It has that Oxford and Cambridge-style collegiate setup, where federated colleges like Trinity, Victoria, and St. Michael's keep a lot of their own identity, governance, and money, while still sitting inside one larger university. So when people say U of T, they're talking about one institution, but also a collection of institutions with different histories and personalities. In 2024 and 2025, the university reported 102,431 students, making it Canada's largest post-secondary institution and the first Canadian university to go past 100,000 total enrollment. It also says it has more than 720,000 alumni, along with over 700 undergraduate programs and 200 graduate programs. At that point, course calendars probably need their own zip code. The three campuses are a big part of the story. St. George, downtown, is the historic core with the colleges and the research-heavy feel people usually picture. Mississauga and Scarborough, both founded in the 1960s, are suburban campuses with their own cultures, and together they account for nearly half of undergraduate enrollment. Inside the overall system, there are 19 academic divisions, 40 libraries, 5 major student unions, and a lot of internal variation under one central administration. That scale gives the university reach, but it also means the student experience can look very different depending on where you are and what part of the institution you move through. U of T's research legacy is one of the reasons it carries so much weight nationally and internationally. This is the institution associated with insulin, stem cells, the first artificial cardiac pacemaker, successful lung and nerve transplants, and the first practical electron microscope. That's an unusually concentrated run of breakthroughs in both biomedical science and medical technology. It also shows up in computing, and AI researchers there help build milestones including the UTech computer, multi-touch technology, and AlexNet, one of the landmark early systems in large-scale deep convolutional neural networks. A lot of that work is anchored in Toronto's Discovery District, where more than 5,000 principal investigators work within 2 kilometers of campus and carry out about $1 billion Canadian in medical research each year. So the university isn't just a place where research happens. It's part of a dense urban research ecosystem that feeds hospitals, labs, startups, and the broader tech and health sectors. That kind of research machine takes money, and U of T brings in more scientific research funding than any other university in Canada. In 2020, it reported about $1.234 billion in sponsored research income, with federal research councils supplying roughly a third of the research budget. Its endowment was about $3.62 billion, or about $4.49 billion if you include the federated universities. And the fundraising numbers are huge even by elite university standards. A $250 million Temerity gift in 2020, then a $200 million federal research grant in 2023. In 2021, the university launched the Defy Gravity campaign with a soaring $4 billion target, which says something pretty clear about the direction higher education has been moving. Top-tier universities increasingly rely on philanthropy and major outside funding to build research capacity, and U of T is one of the clearest Canadian examples of that model. The university is regularly ranked among the world's leading research institutions, landing somewhere around 17th to 29th globally in 2025 era rankings, and first or second in Canada depending on who's counting and how. It's also one of only 2 members of the Association of American Universities outside the United States, alongside McGill. But the bigger story is influence in the literal sense. Its alumni include 5 Canadian prime ministers, 3 governors general, 17 Supreme Court justices, and major business leaders from places like BlackBerry, eBay, Rogers Communications, and the big Canadian banks. A 2021 survey estimated that companies founded by its alumni generate roughly 1/4 of Canada's GDP. That's a striking claim for any single institution, and whether you hear it as a brag, a warning, or a little of both, probably depends on how you feel about concentrated elite power. The university's scale and prestige also come with a long list of serious criticisms. It has faced recurring concerns over campus safety, discrimination complaints, sexual assault investigations, anti-Semitism, and its handling of student deaths. In 2021, a working group described anti-Semitism at the university as a systemic source of discrimination, harassment, and violence. That issue became especially visible during the 2024 pro-Palestinian encampment. Jewish faculty and students were reportedly denied entry to buildings at King's College Circle, and an Ontario Superior Court later ordered the encampment removed, citing hate speech and harassment. There's also the mental health crisis that drew intense attention after 4 students died by suicide between 2017 and 2019, including 3 at the Bahen Center for Information Technology. Student advocates described the university as a pressure cooker with inadequate mental health resources. The university responded by adding barriers and putting nearly $3 million into well-being funding. None of this is unusual in the sense that major universities everywhere struggle with conflict, safety, and student mental health. But at U of T, the size, pressure, and visibility make every failure feel larger and harder to dismiss. For all that weight and conflict, there's also a very deep student culture here. And that part of the story can get lost if you only look at rankings or research dollars. Hart House, which opened in 1919, was built as a kind of all-in-one student center for debate, music, theater, dining, recreation, study, and social life. Its model was influential enough to shape later student centers, including Cornell's Willard Straight Hall. The student media tradition is unusually rich too. The varsity has been publishing since 1880, and student publications gave early platforms to people like Margaret Atwood, Naomi Klein, and Paul Schaffer. Hart House Theatre helped introduce Europe's Little Theatre movement to Canada, which gives you a sense of how campus culture there has often spilled outward into national culture. Even the sport's history has character. The university hosted Canada's earliest recorded gridiron football game in 1861, earned an Olympic rowing silver in 1924, and has won 10 national university hockey titles. And then there's the football team's 49-game winless streak from 2001 to 2008, which is objectively rough, but also part of the charm of university history. Not every tradition gets to be glorious. U of T is one of those institutions that tells a bigger story than itself. You can see Canada's history of religion, class, public education, science, philanthropy, ambition, and social conflict all running through the same place. It's a powerhouse, a pressure cooker, and a cultural engine all at once, which is probably why people keep arguing about it. And honestly, universities that matter tend to get argued about. This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm.